In the previous video, Gu-won discovered that there is a way for the tattoo to come back to him, but Do-hee will have to lose his life to do so. Unfortunately, one of them will no longer exist in this situation and there is no way to save them both. Meanwhile, Star Jin was on a date with Suk-hoon and told him the whole truth about the demon. In the next scene we see Do Jae-young arriving home, and on the cell phone he has cloned from his father, he notices that some of the man's messages with his late stalker have been deleted. We now see the protagonist and she is at home with her husband. The man asks her a few questions, like if the world ended tomorrow what would she like to do, and Do-hee's answer is that she would like to spend her last day with him, with the two of them just traveling and having fun. In order to enjoy more time with his love, before disaster strikes, Gu-won invites her to stay up all night and enjoy each other's company, but while they're watching a horror movie, the protagonist ends up falling asleep. So her husband takes her to bed and the two of them start talking while she's half awake and half asleep. Gu-won tells her that he is going far away, to a place where she won't be able to visit him, and that his greatest fear is that she will disappear from this world, which is why he has decided to move away. However, when he sees a full moon in the sky, just as it was on the night he lost his tattoo, the man decides to go and meet God. Arriving at the establishment where he met her earlier, Gu-won tells the woman that he's not going to give up on his wife and that he's going to choose the two of them. Although this seems more human than to himself, the man decides to bet on this move, and when he leaves the table, we see that his dice have come up with a pair of number ones. Afterwards, Gu-won goes to Mr. Park and gives him instructions on how to proceed with the foundation, in case the demon doesn't make it out of the situation alive. The next day, when Do-hee wakes up, she doesn't find her husband in bed, but when she goes to the balcony, she sees the man there. She was afraid he was going to leave and thought it was a dream, but was relieved when she saw him. Gu-won warns his beloved that they will have to travel at night, because today is the full moon and there is a way for the tattoo to come back to him, but the man doesn't tell her about the risks. In the next scene, we see that Suk-min is already suspicious of the fact that his son has two cell phones and one is always turned down. Meanwhile, Star Jin has heard from Mr. Park about the risk Gu-won will be taking tonight, and the woman decides to go to Do-hee's company to talk to her. The man is at the police station talking to the detectives. As Gu-won doesn't know if he will survive the night, he asks whoever is handling the case to protect Do-hee, as he shares the idea that the knife found in the stalker's chest is a warning to one of the couple. Returning to the protagonist, she is talking to the Star Jin and learns about the risks the two of them are going to take tonight, as well as the part where one of them has to lose their life in order for the other to live. So Jae-young gives Do-hee a poison, because if the tattoo doesn't come back while they're in the water, the woman asks the protagonist to give her life in exchange for Gu-won's. The man arrives, furious that he didn't find out about the risks from him and Gu-won. At this point, the man arrives and is furious to learn what the Jin Star is doing, after which his wife leaves upset that she didn't find out about the risks from him, and Gu-won makes it clear once and for all to Jae-young that she means nothing to him. Do-hee goes straight to Mr. Park's to confirm everything Star Jin has told her, and then goes to the lake where her husband pushed her the day after the tattoo transfer to try to get it back. There, the woman realizes why he asked her those questions the night before, so she realizes that just like her, the man must be frightened by it all. So the protagonist goes back to her apartment and tells Gu-won that they should enjoy their last day together. When the Jin Star returns to the foundation, she runs into Suk-hoon, who is there to clear up some doubts about Gu-won, and, taking advantage of how vulnerable the man is because he likes Do-hee, she comments on what the two of them are going to do tonight, not to mention the fact that the protagonist could lose her life, only for him to take her along to find out the final outcome of the situation. After spending the day together, it's almost time for them to follow in the footsteps of the day of the tattoo transfer, but on the way, the car needs to be refueled, and while they're at the gas station, Do-hee finds a postcard that she's going to take as a souvenir of the day when Gu-won will be reborn as a demon. But it turns out that the couple didn't realize that Do Jae-young had been following them the whole time, and we see why the boy has an injured arm. His father found out about the cloned phone. As I said before, the man was already suspicious about it, and to punish him, he heated an iron in the fireplace and then used it on his son's skin. What shocked me most is that Do Jae-young's mother knows about it and, as much as it disturbs her, she puts on headphones so as not to hear her son's screams. Suk-min tells Do Jae-young that this is to fix him, so that in the future he will be a better man to take his father's place, and that to prove his potential, Suk-min wanted his son to end up with Do-hee. We can see on Do Jae-young's face that he is very upset. Meanwhile, Do-hee inside the convenience store realizes that the poison that Star Jean had gotten to her is in her pocket, and then she receives a call from Suk-hoon asking her to go away from Gu-won, but the woman quickly hangs up. She's writing on the back of the postcard when Do Jae-young starts up the vehicle and rushes into the store, while Gu-won outside runs towards his beloved. Soon Suk-hoon appears with Star Jean and an explosion occurs which results in the men being thrown backwards. Even so, Gu-won enters the convenience store and Jae-young even tries to stop him, which leads Suk-hoon to discover her true intention. Inside, the man ends up having the structure fall on top of him before he reaches the protagonist, but with what's left of his life, he uses it to drag himself to his beloved, who is lying motionless on the floor. Star Jean and Suk-hoon are in despair outside. However, after a few minutes, Gu-won appears coming out of the establishment with Do-hee in his arms, and the two are no longer injured. We then discover that the tattoo has returned to Gu-won so that he can help his beloved. At first, his bet turns out to be a good one. The next day, the couple are well and recovered from everything that happened the night before, and they even go to work in matching outfits. And before they arrive at the company, Gu-won takes his wife to the woman who would be God to show that they are both fine. Later, the gang that Gu-won became boss of against their will, got a tattoo in honor of what he named them after, and the man is in such a good mood that even that amuses him. However, something has changed inside Gu-won, because when he goes to close a contract, the man grants his wish before the gentleman signs with him. This is a man whose wife is suffering from Alzheimer's, and he really wanted her to recognize him before she passed away, because every day his wife asks to see her husband who is by her side, and because of her advanced age, she doesn't realize it's him. So when Gu-won fulfills the man's wish, he ends up getting emotional seeing the love they feel for each other, then leaves without making a deal. Back at the protagonist's company, the couple decided to investigate the people who might be the culprit who tried to take her life the day before, and, as Mrs. Shin was acting strangely, they decided to follow her. However, the two came across something even better and more surprising. They discovered that Miss Shin and Mr. Park are in a relationship, which began the day the man went to take her home after she had a few drinks with Do-hee. However, Miss Shin still wants to keep her love life a secret, so she was all spied on and awkward, so that no one would find out. We also learn that Mr. Park isn't very good at keeping secrets, as Mrs. Shin already knows the truth about Gu-won. At night, the demon once again dreams of a memory from when he was human, and we discover that the name of the woman he was in love with was Wulsum. So he decides to go after God to understand why he is still having these episodes from his past, and the woman's answer is that since they cause him pain, he must have blocked out these memories for that reason, because those who have a strong bond end up finding a way to find each other, and that fate is fated to repeat itself. We just don't know what that means yet. Meanwhile, Suk-min goes to Do-hee to offer an investment deal in her company, but she promptly denies it and, to provoke her, he hands her a photo of Madame Ju with the protagonist's parents. Suk-min comments that his mother was very close to them and that she was devastated when the woman's father stopped working for her. However, Suk-min says that the lady was very serious about Do-hee really being part of the family. And later, the protagonist tells Gu-won about how her parents' accident happened. It was the girl's 11th birthday and she was very excited to celebrate, as her father had said he was going to throw her a party she would never forget, but her parents had to leave for work on the date, even though the man had already resigned, which left little Do-hee confused. And as she really wanted her party to come soon, she hurried them home, but that's what caused his accident, the high speed of the vehicle. In this way, the protagonist blames herself somewhat for the way she acted and asks Gu-won for a hug. She reveals to the man that she remembers when he said he would go far away and tells her husband that she wishes he would never do that. In the next scene, we see Suk-hoon at the company and he is talking to the protagonist. The woman comments that earlier Suk-min had also shown up and she found it strange that he was offering her a deal, since nothing good ever comes out of that man, so her cousin offers to try and find out what he's up to. Then in the evening, Suk-hoon goes to Suk-min's house for dinner and Do Jae-young hasn't joined the family, because according to his father, the man is traveling. But digging around in the place before it's found, Suk-hoon discovers that the demon book is with Suk-min and as soon as the man arrives he makes an excuse to leave and warn Do-hee. Later, Suk-min goes to where his son is and we can see that he has his body bandaged from the damage he suffered trying to take Do-hee's life. For his father, Do Jae-young is nothing more than a piece in his game and as the man has once again failed to eliminate the woman, he tells his son as soon as he gets better to turn himself in for the crime surrounding the family. Meanwhile, Gu-won and Do-hee are at Suk-min's house looking for the book, but instead they find the stalker's phone in Do Jae-young's room, so they decide to go after the man first. They end up being teleported to the police station, where Do Jae-young is being interrogated for turning himself in. There, Do-hee tries to get some truth out of the man, but Do Jae-young's mind is already very damaged and he starts saying things that don't make sense, showing his true state and scaring the protagonist. The next day, we see that Suk-min blames everyone but himself for his son being like that and now it's all on his wife, who he says that since she was the one who gave birth to him, she ends up bearing the burden of having created a monster. Meanwhile, Suk-hoon invites Gu-won to have a drink with him and now the two of them are getting along better. In the end, the demon even heals the broken arm that Suk-hoon had made in the explosion. Star Jean also invites Do-hee out for a drink and in her own way, indirectly apologizes for the way she acted. At night, Gu-won dreams again of the memories of his past as a human and this time, he can see the face of his beloved, which is the same as Do-hee's. And now we get to know the story of the couple that began many years ago. Gu-won's name is Lee-sun and everyone knew him as a young master, he was considered to be from a good family who even had servants. One day, while running away from his study duties, Lee-sun ended up going to a part of the village near the water and there he found a beautiful girl practicing her sword dancing. Despite not knowing her, she knows a lot about Lee-sun and as soon as his mentor approaches, the girl leaves without even telling the young master her name. However, the man's mentor knows what it is. Woolsome is very famous for her dancing talent and intellect, but she is nothing more than a maid, like an escort for men, meaning she could never get involved with someone of Lee-sun's class. However, even knowing this, Lee-sun went to the rock where he found her every day and pretended to study there so that he could watch her. The two of them only really got close when, one day, Woolsome let her shoes slip into the water and, even though it was dangerous, Lee-sun took the risk of picking them up, but ended up getting wet. So, at night, she lit a fire in the village so that he could keep warm, and then their love for each other began to blossom. Over the next few meetings, Lee-sun learned why Woolsome had come to live in his village. It turned out that the woman had refused to dance for an important person, which at the time was a reason for her to lose her life, and in order to escape from her problems, grateful to have come out alive from that situation, Woolsome decided to go to a less crowded village. Then the couple's view is invaded by several fireflies, which makes it more beautiful and in this pleasant atmosphere Lee-sun says that she loves Woolsome. And although his wife feels the same way, it's forbidden for them to get married, so Woolsome tells her that he believes love is a very dangerous feeling that could lead to their ruin. And the woman had an example of this, as Woolsome couldn't dance for that important person because her friend had taken her own life that day, because she was in love with a nobleman she had met. But over the next few days, Lee-sun found a way for them to be together. The man brought Woolsome a study of Catholics, where there is no class difference, but they still had to study this Western religion in secret, because if they were discovered, they could be considered criminals. So they attended meetings with a small group who were studying about, of course in hiding and with the intention of changing the world, rather than waiting for everything to happen over time. Yi-sun will try to pass the state exam. Meanwhile, the young master's mentor already knew about Wulsim and Yi-sun, so to put an end to this forbidden love, he told the village owner about the two of them indulging in another religion, and the way he put it, it seemed that Wulsim had bewitched Yi-sun. Returning to Wulsim, before Yi-sun left for her exam, he gave her a necklace with a cross on it, so that she would remember him until the man returned, and the pendant was very similar to Gu-won's and the man's tattoo. Catholicism had already spread to other villages and, as a shame, people were losing their lives and families were having their houses burnt down. However, so that Yi-sun's village wouldn't be so badly affected, the head of the village decided to take the life of just one person as a lesson to the others, and the one chosen was Wulsim. The woman was questioned about the pendant she was wearing around her neck, and she could have turned the others in, or saved herself by saying who owned it, but Wulsim took all the blame on herself. Thus, when Yi-sun arrived back, his beloved was losing her life, and furious, with hatred taking over his heart, the man took out the swords and finished off everyone in the place. Then he took his own life, saying that if heaven was where God would be, he wouldn't want to go there, and that made him the being with powers. When she wakes up, Gu-won feels guilty and feels responsible for what happened to Do-hee in the past. Later, while they are having breakfast together, the protagonist learns that her husband dreamt about her memories as a human, but only that it involved a certain Wulsim and nothing more. In the next scene, we see that Gu-won has gone to God, and there she tells him that faith is really very dangerous, that it may even be the most dangerous thing in the world, because it is through faith that man has become what he is today. But the worst is yet to come, and the woman recalls her words that fate always repeats itself, meaning that Gu-won could be the reason for Do-hee's destruction again. And with Mr. Park, the two come to the conclusion that Gu-won's humanization began when he met the protagonist because of the connection they had in the past, which was the reason for the imbalance of everything. Now we see Do Jae-young, who is hospitalized, receiving treatment and a sentence for the actions he took as guilty. In a meeting with his mother, the man finally understood that the woman had made him a shield so that he wouldn't suffer at the hands of her husband, and so Do Jae-young ended up like this. But now the man makes it clear that the time has come for her to pay for her sins. And later, while shopping, the news that Do Jae-young has taken his own life reaches the family. The man's mother also has marks on her arm like the ones he had. We can see this when she goes to wash her hands in the bathroom at her son's funeral. Suk-min, on the other hand, is more worried about what will be leaked to the company about why his son did it, and he asks Do-hee not to say anything. The evening will be Star Jin's last performance before she leaves the country, so the couple go along to watch, and for the first time, things go well between the three of them. In the next scene, we see when Madame Ju was alive and she confesses to the priest when she saw the devil himself right in front of her. As we already know, the woman was at the scene of Do-hee's parents' accident, but Gu-won also showed up there to offer a contract. What did you think of these episodes? I hope you enjoyed the summary. Leave your suggestions in the comments and subscribe. If you liked the video, like it and share it to help me out. Until next time.